Okay, I'm going to admit her.
Hi. Yep.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's Talking Bayside Tuesday Lunch and Learn. We're going to be talking about the Cooling Bayside project, and we've also invited Enes Rustic, the Senior Environmental Officer, to give us a summary of your feedback so far. First, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of Bayside, the Gadigal Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation. The people of the Eora Nation, their spirits and ancestors will always remain with our waterways and the land, our Mother Earth. I'd also like to acknowledge that I am today working on the land of the Darug and Gundungurra peoples, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. And we'd like to extend that respect to wherever you are working from today. As you'll notice, you can use the chat button to leave comments or questions for our hosts, and these questions can be addressed at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to now hand over to Senior Environmental Officer Enes Rustic to provide a summary of your feedback, and then Sharon Mitchell will go through the coordinator of communications at Bayside Council to go through the Have Your Say project and see all the feedback you've provided so far. Thank you, Enes.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thanks very much, everyone, for all the feedback that you've sent so far. We've had a variety of types of feedbacks that were received. Most of the feedback was related to where we can actually plant the trees within the open space, so parks and reserves in particularly. This is probably not the kind of feedback that we were looking, but we do have a separate project where they're looking to plant some trees within the Parks and Open Space team. So I'm able to pass that feedback on to them, and there will be some greening of Parks and Open Space within Bayside. We have received some valuable feedback on what trees that we can utilize within the region. That's helping us out in determining which street routes are people using for transport hubs, for walking to school, walking to other places of interest, etc. And we'll be incorporating that feedback into our preliminary designs. Now, during the preliminary designs, we're looking to incorporate areas where we will go for the next stage of our consultation. So, Kelsey, can you put the next slide, please? So our next stage is basically going to be sending out pamphlets to those areas that we are now focusing on planting our trees. Those pamphlets are basically going to be sent out to obviously all the communities in those areas, but particularly we're looking to get the feedback from people who haven't had a chance to either hear about our Lunch and Learn programs, hear about our online presence, and simply being able to look at the pamphlet and say, right, I want to ring this number up and provide my feedback to myself on where the trees can go. So we will be recording that feedback manually. There will be a number of people who basically, they have a very strong views whether they want trees or they don't want trees. So it's important that we record that in our database and make sure that when we do provide a final design, we can actually then exclude the people that don't want trees. Most importantly, once we have conducted the feedback with sending out the pamphlets and received further feedback from you, and we're still seeking online feedback, of course, regarding what streets are you using for your walkways, what streets do you think require additional trees, we will be sending out official letters to every resident who is going to receive a tree in front of the property. So you're not going to find yourself in a situation where there is a person planting a tree in front of your property and you have got no idea about it. So we will be sending you an official letter, and we'll be saying, from all the feedback we received, you have been selected to receive a tree. Please email us or call us and tell us you don't want a tree, or tell us we want a particular tree. Now, I know there's going to be some questions around what types of trees that we're going to be planting. At this stage, we can't give you a lot of information other than we're still going to be focusing on our favorite trees within the region, such as buckaroos, red gums, water gums, and so on, ivory curl trees as well. But we probably may be including some other types of natives that might go into your area, which will be dictated by our council master plans. So once we receive the full feedback and we have planting concept designs, we're looking to do all the planting starting from March and finishing up by the end of June. So that's it from me now, Kelsey. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ennis. Shara, I'll hand over you now. I'll stop sharing my screen. If you just want to show the feedback that we've received so far from the community using the interactive tool.
Okay, great. I'll just give me 1 second and I'll share my screen with you all. So let me know when you can see it.
Yep, looks great.
Can you see it now? Okay, so this is our Cooling Bayside Have Your Say page. So you can access it from our website, or you can just go to Have Your Say. So the project has been open now since the 22nd of October, and we've had a couple of lunch and learns, and feedback will close not until January 22. So there's just a simple explanation about the project here and the timeline, the life cycle over here. If you know someone that needs a hard copy or would like to input into this project, we can also arrange for that to happen as well. The species lists are in the document library if you want to know more about what sort of species that Ennis was just briefly touching on. And there's a heat map there as well. But the most important tool that we're using for this one is our tree planting map. So what we do is we work with our mapping team, and they provide us an overlay of areas that Ennis has identified for this round of tree planting. And people can go in and add pins, and we're really happy to have received a lot of pins. So you can see on the map here, the areas in blue, they're the areas that we're asking people to input on. And these are the amount of pins that have been dropped in specific areas. So if you want to add a pin, you just go here and press add pin. And I can probably, it's going to ask me to sign in, but there's 2 pins you can add. The trees, yes, please, or no trees here, please. So if you have an objection to a tree being planted at the front of your property, then you can just put that on there, and it'll actually show us the address of the property and everything. So that's a really helpful tool for us. You can ask a question. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can send a question through this portal as well. So if you wanted, and Ennis, we'd send that across to Ennis, and he would happily answer all questions that are sent through. Yeah. So that's the Have Your Say site. So I'll pass it back to Ennis if you want to talk about some more about some of the feedback. Or
yeah, look, Sharon, the feedback I just mentioned quickly, it was basically related around the parks and open space. We're still looking to receive more feedback, particularly around the street trees. So the idea is to understand your movements, understand what streets are using where you're seeing irregular bare patches. But very importantly, we would also like to see feedback around the areas that already have a good tree cover, and also missing some links as well there that we can actually incorporate. It's much easier to provide a greener link in an area where there's more trees than trying to start from scratch in a bare areas. So, but any feedback is valuable. We want to hear from you. We want to know how you're utilizing our areas, and we will ensure that that's incorporated into our farming design.
Okay. Thanks, Ennis. We do have a question here from Cecilia about the yellow coloured dots on that map. What that is showing is that the more comments within that section, the colour gets lighter to kind of spark us to go, oh, we need to look here. So there's a really popular area. I think that was in Bexley. There was about 27 people dropping pins, and then there was 19 just next to it. So that's why they're yellow. That's why they're yellow. I hope that answers your question there, Cecilia. If there's any more questions, please drop them through. Otherwise, I've left the link for Have Your Say in the chat. You're welcome. And it will be open over the holiday break. It's going to be open until January 2022. So there's plenty of time for people to give their feedback, and contact Ennis directly. His number's on there as well. And yeah, I think that covers that for this afternoon. If anyone has anything else to add, let me know. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today at Talking Bayside Tuesday. Please check out the Eventbrite page for upcoming projects and engagement projects we'll be presenting. Thursday this week, there is a presentation on the Bexley flag, and we have someone from the library team coming in talking all about that. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Thank
Bye.
you.